Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hivemind Recap Podcast. It is time for June 2022, Part 2, the Albums Edition, because this month was fucked. Hi, Derek. Welcome. We did the intro without you.
Oh, shit. I needed pants.
Wait. Me too.
Let's go.
So, anyway, we have more music to talk about because June did not stop.
Never stops.
I'm here with Justin, Derek, and Jacob as per usual. How are you guys feeling tonight? I know we just talked 2 days ago when we recorded part 1, but...
Hey.
Let's do a rerun of last time. Jake, I have a bone to pick with you.
Do you want me to give a number rating for every single EP and album here? Because I have it on my doc.
Dear God.
No, I think we had enough.
No, I can give you raw numbers. I can give you the 7.3s out of 10 if you want it.
Nah.
I'm pulling it up
good.
on my phone right now. You can't stop me.
Okay.
You know,
You also can't force me, so I might just not. But
I don't know if we should go down this road again.
That'd be a pretty long road, huh?
It would be a long road.
Anyway, so yeah, June didn't stop. We have 4 EPs and 7 albums to talk about, 5 of which all released on the same day, which is absurd.
That was what, June
10th. June
Yeah.
the 10th.
10th.
Definitely going to go down as one of the craziest release days of this entire year, I think. And I also think there's some albums that we aren't going to be like officially talking about that we all listen to. Like I know Derek, that Bleed From Within album that you had mentioned.
Yeah, that was really good. But
have enough
June
to talk
fucking
about already.
wild month. Yeah, 9's already. You know how it goes.
Yeah. With all that being said, though, we have a lot of good stuff to talk about. So we might not be talking about everything that released in the month of June, but everything we are talking about here is stuff that we are passionate about in one way or another. For the most part, there might be one exception to that. But
I know what it is.
this is going to be a really, really fun episode, I think. I think all of us get to have our moments to talk about bands that we are really adoring right now. So... definitely stay tuned for the entire episode. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about. If you want to keep up to date on social media, follow us at HiveMindRadio_ on Instagram and Twitter. Follow us on Spotify, Hivemind Radio Recap. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We just broke 50 subscribers after our last episode, which is pretty awesome. So now we are on the road to 3 digits.
Let's hit it before the
end of the year?
Before the next 2 years.
That would be awesome if we hit it before the end of the year.
That would be awesome.
That'd be crazy, bro.
Fuck.
That would be crazy.
I think it's possible.
I think it could be possible, yeah. I think a more realistic goal is like
75.
By the time we hit our 3-year anniversary. So like next April. If you know, let's not, I'm not going to say we can't do it by December, but you know. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get into these first few EPs of the month of June?
No, I think I caused enough fuse last time.
Yeah.
I think we should get straight into the titty milk.
Yes, sir. Right into the titty milk with this new EP from Paul Bartolome called Reflections, Part 1.
Catch my breath. I cannot explain it. Don't know how to say it. Can't know you just don't get it.
God fucking damn it.
Why did you not think it would go that way?
I was holding on to that. I had that prepared.
We're holding on to
for
Paul's
the
titty
longest
milk?
time.
Okay.
Yep.
Christ.
Curdled by now.
Okay, Paul.
Paul.
What's up, Paul?
You know, in Canada we have bagged milk, so
Oh, God.
Why would they do
you know what's
that?
funny? I actually saw it was an empty bag, but I saw while I was driving home today, I saw a bag of milk just on the highway.
Just on the side of the road?
On the highway.
That's Canadian roadkill, bro.
Blowing in the wind.
It's not
Canadian
Canadian
roadkill.
roadkill in Canada isn't like a raccoon or like a squirrel or anything like that. It's just like an empty bag of milk on the side of the road. Like,
So anyway, Paul Bartolome released an EP, guys. And for those that aren't aware, we've done 2 episodes of our Hivemind After Hours with Paul Bartolome and his bandmates. Go listen to those episodes for the context. It's there.
Oh,
It'll all
the
make sense.
content and the content.
Yes.
Exactly.
Both are
For both.
phenomenal. Also, you'll probably get some context on how this is going to be structured. I think he's got another EP he's going to be shadow dropping within the next couple of months, and then it's all going to be combined with whatever the fuck released before, like Medicine, Monster, Time Bomb, the fucking Danny Warsaw feature, and something else.
So does this give us a license to like album of the year that when it eventually comes out, or like do we have to EP it? You know, like are we talking like of Mice and Men situation? Or?
I'm thinking of Mice and Men situation where it's all going to be packaged in like 2 EPs, and then it's all going to be grouped together in albums. Yeah. So you can do as you wish.
Good, I get to pick and choose.
Yeah,
I want to pick and choose because I think this EP is really damn good.
It is really good. I am on first listen. I'll be honest, I was a little bit underwhelmed by the new stuff we got. But after a couple more listens, I was really growing to like Hypocrite. Fracture's still the best song on the EP.
I cannot believe what I just heard. Justin didn't like it at first.
I said I was underwhelmed. Didn't say I didn't like it.
It's Caskets all over again, bro.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the most underwhelming EP, but it's
it's gonna make the top 5.
I mean, it'd be kind of hard for it to not make us top 5, given like 2 other bands have released EPs this year. But
yeah, true.
Yeah. And we're talking about them both this month.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So I will say I didn't really know what to expect because we've been listening to Paul Bartolome for what a good 2.5 years now at this point. Yeah. And I wasn't honestly clicking with Fractures when I first heard it. And so I kind of just left everything alone. I'm like, I'm not going to force myself to like it because I listened to it a lot up until the After Hours episode. And it still wasn't clicking. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to leave it till the EP drops. And now that we've got the EP, I really like Fractures, and I think there's a lot to love here. I think besides Fractures, my favorite is honestly While We Were Still Young. It has this such, like, nostalgic feel to it. It sounds like something straight out of the 80s with, like, like Bryan Adams' Summer of 69, like summer nostalgia vibes. Like,
it's very much a summer song. It's like roll the windows down, hands out, flowing in the wind type of song. Embracing that While We're Still Young energy,
Paul Bartolome, the group, have such a finesse with experimenting with different types of styles of music and all the like rock genre, and it's still sounding pretty much unique. There was a problem with that in his last 2 albums that I think they've now kind of gotten a lock on as far as like this album, quote unquote album cycle goes.
Yeah, I can't think of a lot of other bands that really have like a command over a range. I mean, obviously there are bands in that discussion like, Bad Omens or even like Of Mice and Men, like we mentioned earlier, but I think really it's a very strong demonstration of a band's talent and creative ability to create 5 songs that sound so different and yet have it feel like such a cohesive EP. I'm wondering how it's going to feel with Reflections Part 2 and then in the full album, but
I don't know. I thought this EP was phenomenal. Like, I was going into it, like, I honestly, out of all of us, I think I'm the least high.
I think we could all agree on that.
Yeah.
On Paul Bartolome. I went into this with no expectations. I came out thinking this was phenomenal.
You'll have to hear it.
So what is your favorite track still Fractures? Or did you find a new one?
I have a 3-way tie.
Oh shit, for real? Between what?
Yep. Fractures, Anxiety, While We're Still Young.
Ooh. And a 3-song run at the start. I will
also vouch for Anxiety. That song, I was a little scared. Because that song name Anxiety, you just don't get it. It feels like it has a sense of like cringe potential.
Yeah.
It's got angst written on it.
I'm thinking about Asking Alexandria right now. It gave me like Asking Alexandria vibes, like from like A House on Fire, where you get one of those titles and then it's just really bad. But we got this and it was really good.
Yeah. Like that chorus of "Yeah, you just don't get it" is surprisingly catchy, and it works really well.
Yeah, I think that for me, especially like in that song and overall, there's a lot of like good lyricism to this EP as well. I think that's also probably my biggest complaint about it is mainly that chorus of "Burn It Down." Like I know it's meant to be like catchy and anthemic, but it didn't quite get there for me. But then you have moments on Anxiety or Hypocrite where the lyrics really resonate, and it's like this band can really do it all, right? And like there's so much genre-wise, sonically, lyrically to unpack on this EP. Not that it's like, you know, Shakespearean levels of depth, but compared to a lot of other bands that are making sort of this style of sound, I feel like, honestly, Paul Bartolome at this point are outclassing them. Whether that be something like an Asking Alexandria, you know, that made kind of more of anthemic, arena rock type of thing with those past two albums. I think this EP single-handedly floors both of those albums combined. Like, I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
For the most part, yeah.
Can we talk about how genius it is as well to release it as 2 EPs and then like a handful of singles and then group it all into an album? Especially with the last 2 album cycles, which was just like, I think, single after single.
Well, and I think that lends itself to the fact that, like you said, they're going to have 2, what was it? I think the next one they said were 4 or 5 songs. I could be misremembering that, but you got that. You got the 3 extra and maybe, say, 2 more songs. You got a 13 to 15 track album. You know, it's hard sometimes to get all of those songs the attention that they love when you have a longer album like that. And so to give each of these 5 songs, those 3 singles prior, then this EP, and then the next EP, to give those songs all time to shine individually. Yeah. I mean, even Of Mice and Men, looking at their numbers on some of the songs in that album, you don't see that many albums out there with those big of numbers on the like 9 singles or whatever, but they managed to pull it off.
The streaming service meta, I guess I'll call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, bands have to adapt nowadays to TikTok and the way that streaming works as opposed to raw sales, like you said. And yeah, I mean, on so many levels, Paul Bartolome have really, I think, figured that out. I think they're ahead of the curve here. I'm really hoping that some of these pop off. Like, all of these, I feel like, on some level have octane potential to them. You know, especially hearing some other bands that have made it on there that I feel like have elements of this but aren't doing them quite as well. It's always some of these smaller bands that have it. Oh yeah, absolutely. And honestly, crossover potential, I know if I showed that song to my parents, they'd like it. And they're very much into like the 80s nostalgic rock type of thing. Like, there's just so much appeal on so many levels to this EP, and I really hope that they find success from this EP cycle, album cycle, whatever, because they're sitting at 25,000 monthly listeners, and they deserve at least 10 times that, I feel like, with the quality of this EP.
It's been 1 month, and they tweeted that the EP got over 400,000 streams.
Hell yeah.
So,
dope.
I think it's doing some numbers. I think also they've got a couple festivals coming up, so I think that'll help pull in some people.
Oh. That's right. They got Incarceration there, headlining one of the side shows there.
Yeah.
That would have been a good festival for us to all do our first ever Hivemind meetup, if only money wasn't a problem.
Exactly. Man, that is the perpetual struggle, isn't it? If only money wasn't a problem. Yeah. But
I don't
if
feel
you
like
have...
I have too much. I don't feel like I have too much else to say. I feel like we've covered this EP in solid detail here.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you have any extra money, please go support the boys over at Paul Bartolome, because they've got some good-ass merch. I'll vouch for the shirt. That thing is comfy as hell. Really well priced.
I think mine is unfortunately starting to fade for some reason. But
because you wore it too much, probably. It's too comfy.
Probably.
But yeah, no, I mean, super, super good merch, super cheap. You know, we'll always love the boys over at Paul Bartolome and all we've been able to do with them. So definitely go check this out. I think this is definitely one of the better EPs I've heard this year, for sure.
For sure. Do you guys want to hear the number rating that I gave this, or are we not doing that?
Let's go.
I think for this episode only, we need to hear it just because of the conjunction with the last one.
All right.
We need the power ranking.
Right now, this EP is sitting at a 7.3 out of 10 on the doc, which places it at like 5 or 6 of my like favorite EPs I've heard this year so far.
All right, I'm going to have a Word doc open, and I'm going to keep track of this. We're going to have the Jake rating scale, and we're going to have the power ranking by the time this is all said and done. 7.3, Paul Bartolome. Now, Jake, you gave Paul Bartolome a 7.3, but how are you feeling about this new EP from Glass Hands called Detox?
Seven out of 10.
7 out of 10. Okay, we're going with the number first this time. 7.0. Glass Hands.
I thought this EP was really solid. This was better than I expected, to be honest. It just also didn't spend that much time in my ears. And that's kind of where the ranking goes in, where it's like, I listen to all of these songs individually, and I'm like, damn, I'm enjoying this a lot, and then I never go back to it, and I'm never thinking about it. Like, it's good, it's just missing that hook. That's something that makes me want to go back to it and listen to it more. The one song that really captured me was the opener in Manic State. And
Manic State's really good.
I think that song, just the chorus is sick. And then I also really liked the drums in that song. The drums feel super crisp. I mean, across the entire EP, but particularly in Manic State.
I actually, before we go any further, I wanted to point something out that you said kind of, like, I remember we were talking yesterday, and I was like, wait, we're not doing, like, EPs and albums today, right? I didn't get a chance to check out the Glass Hands EP or the next EP that we're going to talk about. Be like, yeah, no problem, it's just singles, and then we did it today, so I didn't get a chance to listen to either of them. But I think that your point about there not being a hook is also a victim of, like, June syndrome. And I think a lot of releases this month in general suffered from that. It's so much released in such a short span of time that they were all fighting for our attention. So if something's not hooking us, then it's not even, it's just maybe there's a weaker hook than something else that released in the same 2-week time span. You know, with this many albums and EPs, it's everybody's vying for contention. So
Eric,
this band did get me with Manic State at the very least.
I really liked How Do You Feel, Justin? So I have this on my list of things to check out.
I think if I had to pick one that you would go back and listen to more, it'd probably be Honey. Honey is probably going to be one that you're going to enjoy the most.
Well, shoot, I've got somebody advertising for track 1. I got somebody advertising for the last track. I already like track 2. I may as well just go listen to the whole thing. Bam, you sold me, right?
Do you want me to sell you on Rivers of Agony real quick?
Tell me what you like about Rivers of Agony.
Do you like The Death of Me by Polaris?
Yes.
You will like River of Agony.
Really? Okay. That's interesting, having heard How Do You Feel. I wouldn't have got that vibe. Huh.
River of Agony is trying really hard to be like... It's like when the friend tries to copy the other friend's homework, but like trying to do it super like discreetly. Except River of Agony is just like... It's just Landmine 2.0.
Interesting.
And I almost feel like that kind of ruins the song for me. Because I adore Landmine, so I should probably like River of Agony more than I do. But I also think that this band's unclean vocals just aren't doing it as much for me. And River of Agony is by far the most pissed that this band gets on the EP.
Okay. Huh.
I think the band also has some really good lyricism. I'll point to Falling Out, because Falling Out's also another one that stuck with me more and more as the time went on. One of the verses reads, "We'll see eye to eye when I'm cold. Can't save anything worth saving at all. Frozen to death, put the hole in my head. Can't feel anything worth feeling at all." I think they've just got like a lockdown on lyricism and just making it flow with the instrumentation they've got.
I do believe that I read on social media that this is the last EP with one of their vocalists. I don't know if it's the clean or harsh vocals here. I would assume the clean vocalist, but I don't know for certain. Justin, I don't know if you know any better since you were the one that introduced them to me, but...
Repeat the question, I'm sorry?
One of the vocalists of this band is leaving the band. This is like the final EP with the band or whatever.
It is the clean vocalist, I believe.
Yep, okay. Which is a bit of a shame, because I think he has a really solid voice.
Yeah, he's got a really good voice, but I think he's just cut him and done, as all people are.
Well, I mean, it's hard, you know,
Yeah,
in the
it's not
music
easy.
industry nowadays, especially like in general, let alone with all the restrictions of COVID and everything opening up. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's really a testament to all these bands that have persevered through, you know, glass hands and otherwise to put out music during this time. You know, it's rough. It's rough.
Especially for the smaller bands out there.
Yeah, exactly. I will say I went to this band's Spotify page. I forgot that this is the band that released Bouquet. I remember exactly where I was when I first heard that song.
Okay, really good.
I was washing dishes in a dish pit in like August 2019. Shit, and that was the last I knew this band's name sounded familiar. Okay, yeah. So now I'm double sold because I remember really liking Bouquet and Dive at the time, which means that I need to go listen to Detox. And you should too. I haven't heard it, but I'm advertising for it, and I think that's a testament to how well Jake and Justin have decided to.
I may not love this EP as a whole, but if only for Manic State, I'm vouching.
We got the vouch, boys.
Justin, do you have a vouch on this next EP?
I do. Let's talk about SENNA's new EP, A Moment of Quiet, that got them on Sharp Tones.
And I can even see a glimpse in the dark. Will we make it out? Will we make it out?
So the first thing I want to bring up about this EP is just the naming scheme. All of these songs are based on like a flower / color.
Yeah,
Some
It's like
sort.
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Rosehip, lavender, blue mallow, jade, and Morocco mint. I don't know, just kind of funny. I don't know exactly what the naming scheme means, but cool. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think
Justin,
it's related
I
to
want
the
I want
album.
you I want you to start with this since this band has kind of been one of your hidden gems that you've been vouching for a while, to be honest.
Yeah, so their singles before they dropped this EP out of fucking nowhere was Rosehip and Lavender. Loved Lavender when it came out. Rosehip kind of got them in their sights for me. Going back to this EP and kind of listening at one after it came out, Jade is still the best song on the EP, and it's not even close.
The disrespect to Lavender.
Lavender's also good. Like, yeah, but Jade has just got it's got a really good vibe to it that I enjoy. But I also won't discredit all the songs. This is actually just like a really good EP and has a lot of variety in a 5-track EP. Morocco Mint is kind of slow at the start, but it's high energy. Just really kind of tops off the EP. The EP's just got a lot of energy that you wouldn't really expect.
Yeah, the one thing that I appreciated the most from this EP is the instrumentation and specifically the guitar riffs. And I think that's why I love Lavender so much. Just crazy riffs.
This band is it's almost like a gent style, I would say.
Yeah, kinda.
Like it's I'd say it's a mixture of, it's like Baby's First Treasures, I would
Baby's
say.
first Treasures.
I would say.
Well, that alone has
without
sold
the,
me. So.
What fucking instrument does Treasures do again?
Saxophone.
Without the saxophone, yeah.
Without the sax, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of see it, actually.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah,
impression
this,
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say that the impression that I got, like I said, I didn't have a chance to listen to this one in full either, but I did check out, I believe Rosehip and Lavender when somebody sent them, probably Justin. That it's got a very, it's like almost if Loya went gent type of thing in terms of the instrumentation.
I like
could be
that.
tripping
I
there.
like that better than Baby's First Treasures.
Like, it's
I like the
genty, but it's
concept of Baby's First Treasures.
it's very, I don't know, it's ethereal gent almost. Like, I don't know, very light and airy, which you wouldn't expect. But I guess with song titles like these, it fits. But definitely an interesting band. I can't think of very many other bands that sound like this.
Yeah, they definitely have a unique sound, and I don't love it. The vocals, they're a little strange to me. They're good, but something about them just feels a little off. It's like when he's screaming, it feels almost spoken word-esque when he's trying to sing. And it just doesn't come off exactly how I would love it to. And I think that's why I really have only connected with Lavender, because that's the one song where I really feel like his vocals don't sound a little bit, like, unpolished. I don't know. That could be totally off base.
So by unpolished, do you mean like off key or just like more raw?
More
and, like,
raw.
unprocessed?
Definitely
They're much more raw.
So, Jacob, have you heard this? The full EP?
Bits and pieces.
Okay, do you know what Jake is talking about, though?
Yeah.
Would you say it's similar to, like, some of the early Movements material in terms of the delivery? Like that kind of spoken word, screaming?
I wouldn't relate it to that.
Okay.
I almost want to relate it to, like, old Architects that I don't like.
Oh, okay. I know what you're going for. I can see what you're going for. Okay.
I don't know. It's hard to place, like, a good comparison to what this band sounds like. There's just a lot of loose connections in my head, and none of them feel exactly right, but with enough loose connections, you get somewhat of a picture.
I think that's also a good strong suit for this band, because I think this band's got a lot of just potential to
definitely
not only do their own thing, but also fit into several different spheres where wherever you come from, you can find something to like from this band. And while I've got the soapbox, go listen to Morocco Mint. Just kidding.
Okay. My best comparison is the clean vocalist from Breakdown of Sanity.
Oh.
Are you starting to form a picture in your head?
You guys have made a lot of connections that are just making me want to go listen to this album more and more. In Jake telling me he didn't enjoy it as much, I want to go listen to it. Jake has somehow managed to turn that around into selling me on it. I don't know how he did that, guys. Jake, there might be a future in marketing for you, my friend. I don't know. Hop into sales. You just sold me.
Honestly, like, I'm trying to do freelance video editing. If people want me to do commercials, I mean, hell yeah, I'm down.
Oh, thanks.
So,
Senna, if you're listening, get my man Jake on a Senna commercial.
Any last comments here?
No, but if anyone should get you to make a commercial, I think it should be Spiritbox.
True.
With their new EP,
That's a lot of pressure.
Rotoscope. Too bad.
That's a lot of pressure.
You guys, why are all the 3-song EPs this year so good? What kind of crack did they put in the water, bro, that every band wants to put out a 3-song EP and have it be just like the greatest collection of songs I've ever heard in my life? Like,
counter argument that agrees with you.
There, right?
I have a counter argument that agrees with you. Okay.
Okay.
Hysteria alone makes this my second favorite EP of the year.
Huh.
Yeah, Hysteria alone also makes this my second favorite EP of the year.
Great.
And then you have the other 2 songs.
Yep.
That are also really good.
Yeah.
Like, I think this band is genius. I think that, we were talking earlier about the streaming era and online demand and all that, and I think that they are doing an incredible job of keeping their name in people's mouths. Because, I mean, Courtney said explicitly, she always has a Q&A after every release I've seen on Twitter, and the Q&A was like, are these a part of an album? Do you have any songs written? And they're like, we have a couple things written here and there. Nothing's been out. There's no album plan as of right now. We just wanted to get something out to keep our names fresh and relevant. And I think they did that with that Millennium collab. They spaced that out a couple months. They've got these surprise EP out of nowhere.
They didn't even space it out a couple months. Everybody was talking about when she came out on stage with Ollie Sykes.
Yeah. Spiritbox is just, they're almost like a phenomena. Right? Like Rotoscope Rotoscope's already at 1.3 million, and Sew Me Up is almost at 700,000. Hysteria is at 750,000, and this is like all three of these songs were a complete surprise that came out announced maybe 3 hours before they dropped. Like,
yeah, and 3 hours before they dropped, it was just Rotoscope.
Yeah,
it wasn't even
a
3 songs.
Know there's going to be 3 tracks.
Like, I was just excited to hear one new
Spiritbox.
Spiritbox.
1.6 mil.
Right. What's up?
Rotoscope on YouTube is 1.6 mil.
Jeez.
In 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous the way that this band pulls numbers, but I think it's for a very good reason given how good these songs are. Everything that this band touches in terms of genre feels like it just turns to gold. I mean, Courtney sounded great on, that EDM collab with Millennium. Everything on Eternal Blue, whether it be something heavier, more, metalcore, or something more experimental like We Live in a Strange World, something slower like Constance. And then you have Rotoscope and Sew Me Up, which are these, like, 9-inch nails, Deftones style, industrial, 90s rock type of thing, where they're... Rotoscope and Sew Me Up, like, personally, I had a coworker a couple years back who was all into, like, Metallica, Pantera, and he loved industrial metal, and he would show me these songs, and I hated the 90s style of singing, but I loved the instrumentals, and I was like, I wish some band would come along and do this industrial sound with fresh-sounding new age vocals, and Architects almost got there for me with Animals. I think that Spiritbox has managed to, in their first 2 attempts at trying, completely nail that sound with Rotoscope and Sew Me Up, to the point where it's like, I'm talking contention that all 3 of these songs are some of the best I've heard all year, and like in top 10, top 20 contention, and they didn't really even have to try. It's not even like this was some big release. It was a surprise drop, and they're like, oh yeah, we just wanted to try out some things and, keep our names fresh in people's mouths. And it's like, oh yeah, we're just creating some of the best music you've heard all year without even trying. Like,
the only other band that I can think of that is like as good at keeping their name in people's mouths is Loveless at this point. With everything Julian's been doing lately. But like, it feels like whenever Spiritbox drops something, the difference between Spiritbox and Loveless is that Loveless, Julian's just a TikTok, like, he's like a puppet master of that app at this point. With any cover he touches, just being able to control that algorithm to his stroke.
Yes, come to the dark side, Jay.
Whereas with Spiritbox can just go quiet for a few weeks, and it feels like as soon as they announce anything, it's like an event. It's like everyone just got the notification on their phone that like Spiritbox is about to do something crazy. And everyone's here for it. It's like, what's Spiritbox doing next? And like, 9 times out of 10, or 10 times out of 10, it's incredible.
I want to give... I mean, obviously, there's the special shout-out to the Breakdown Hysteria, right? Like, we all know it. We all acknowledge it. It's kind of like talking about
continuation
the Hellfire.
from part 1, actually. So, Novelists. Breakdown of the year for a short moment in time. Until Fit for a King happened. But 3 hours before Fit for a King happened, this song happened. Hysteria Breakdown of the year, baby. Come at me.
I mean, I'm honestly ready to declare
I
that.
have not heard something as filthy and disgusting and as chunky since Pulling Teeth by Of Mice and Men, and that was over a year ago.
No, go for it.
I have a different one, but I do enjoy the Hysteria Breakdown. I think in all 3 of these songs, I think Rotoscope is best song all around.
Okay.
Sew Me Up is the most catchy, and then Hysteria has the best breakdown.
I'm going to agree with that 100%, I think. I think Rotoscope, for me, it has every element of what I would want this band to do. Right? Like, I want the breakdown, I want the uncleans, I want the cleans, I want the catchy chorus. The echo on Sway in that chorus is just instant earworm, and I think Sew Me
I'll
Up too with that
disagree with
chorus.
that, but it did get me eventually. Yeah, I was a little thrown off by Rotoscope at first, and it took me quite a while to really get into it.
Huh.
That chorus, like, the muted vocals are... on the chorus just didn't click for me at first, but eventually, like, once it was in my head, it was in my head, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the part where it's one of my favorite things in this EP is the chorus of Sew Me Up, where she sings Hate Too Hollow for Anyone. It's just so haunting, I guess. Courtney's voice has just this incredible ability to sound dark and growly and yet airy and haunting. Yep. And we get that full range on this EP, which I think is part of what makes it so special, you know? Oh, this band is just so good. It feels like they can't do any wrong, no matter what they do, and they just keep getting better.
I want to make shout out to the lyrics in the breakdown, or right before the breakdown, where it's like, what I created as violent delights in my head will have a violent end. I have really connected to those lyrics, not as just like the call out to a breakdown, but just as like kind of deep lyrics in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really
no.
really
I'm with you.
Lyrics. It's more than just a breakdown call out to get the crowd pumped.
Well, and I think there are bands out there like fucking, I don't know, Attila, right? They just have the worst lyrics you've ever heard, but the breakdown's really good, so it kind of balances it out, you know? Spiritbox is giving us the whole package. I mean, I haven't been, well, I shouldn't say that. Top 5 most hype moment of the year is in that breakdown in Hysteria, where it's I Feel Fear Disintegrate Axis and the music cuts and then she screams Annihilate and it cuts back in. I just get this every time that breakdown hits, and that part in particular, I just get this stupid grin on my face. I've listened to that song maybe 30 times now, and just every time without fail. Oh man. I love Spiritbox. I can't remember the last time a band this quickly like just launched itself into my top 10 favorite artists of all time. But honestly, between Eternal Blue and this and everything, the Courtney features, even that Spiritbox EP, the singles before Eternal Blue, all of it is just so good. It feels like their floor is the ceiling of so many other bands in the scene, and yet they just keep pushing higher. It's ridiculous.
Yep. It is ridiculous.
What do we think about this in comparison to Eternal Blue? Which is better?
I don't think they're comparable.
That's a good way to put it, but if I had to pick, I think Eternal Blue is better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Eternal Blue was my album of the year last year, so like I feel obligated.
Yeah. I have to choose this.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Damn. I think the quality is as good, if not better. I just think it comes down to quantity type of thing. That if this is as good as Eternal Blue's just got more tracks for me. But I think if you made me pick my top 3 off of Eternal Blue and put them up against this might be better type of thing. I think this is certainly a step up from their other EP, the Spiritbox self-titled EP back in 2017 or whatever. Yes. I think this blows that out of the water, but I would expect it to, you know. But I mean, shoot, if they're going to tour. Well, I'm not touring directly on this, but they've got a couple dates coming out, a headliner. I'm wondering. I'm now curious to see if they do anything else with this between now and the next album cycle. Whether it be a tour on these 3 songs, you know, if they're going to put out anything else, you know, because we weren't expecting this at all, and now it creates that anticipation of, oh shit, well, what if they drop something else, you know? But
what if they decide to fuck around and drop another 5-song EP at the end of the
year? Please, that would be so good. I'd love that.
I think they said they're touring Eternal Blue in North America in early 2023, is what I remember.
There better be a Virginia date, or there will be hands thrown, ladies and gentlemen, hands thrown.
Derek will be in Hysteria.
Yes, sir.
I think the last thing that I want to mention before we move on, sorry to dampen the mood, but Sew Me Up is probably one of the more underwhelming Spiritbox songs, in my opinion.
Wow. Horrible take. Shut up.
Next to We Live in a Strange World. Next to We Live in a Strange World, probably the most underwhelming.
Okay, just stop.
What is Never mind.
It's still good, but like...
This is why I asked him to do the ranking in the first place.
Next to Rotoscope and Hysteria, it's just... Sew Me Up isn't doing much for me. It's still good, but...
You want my hot take? Out of all the songs,
it's the best song on the EP.
No, it's not.
Okay.
But like, it's still like a 9 on 10. I think that between these 3 songs and Eternal Blue, out of everything, Holy Roller is the weakest song, and it's not even close. I skip it.
That's not a terrible take.
I skip it.
I've heard worse takes.
But I don't know. I think this band's creativity is just on full display here, and I love every song here so much.
The
So
bad
probably won't be-
Spiritbox song is still good.
Exists.
Yeah.
Exists.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna have a talk after this is over.
Not in agreement tonight. Not in agreement.
No. We got all that out last episode. Now it's
Yeah.
time to argue.
Shall we move on to the albums?
I say we argue about some albums, guys.
I don't know if there's too much to argue about this first one, though.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like Justin might be the one odd.
Justin's out of this.
All right, then.
No.
Hivemind in effect,
No.
fellas? Memphis
Maybe,
May
let's
Fire.
find out.
Brand new album. Remade in Misery.
Sometimes I feel no hope. There is, I might be lost until I reach the end.
I didn't expect this album to work.
Me either, actually.
I didn't think it would work. I still
Especially
don't
for
know
me
why it works.
specifically.
Yeah, this works better as an album than I feel like it probably ever had a right to.
No, it doesn't deserve to be.
But
this
it
way.
is very much helped by the fact that the best 2 songs on this album are the opener and the closer.
Ah.
I don't know about that one. No.
We need to dedicate a moment to the fight.
You know,
within.
no.
Not
no,
necessarily
this
now.
This is the
but-
information. This is the information, Jake.
Okay.
The 2 songs that were released in the album, so the last 2 songs that were released are the best 2 songs.
Misery and The Fight Within
Yes.
is what you're saying. Okay. That is a respectable take. I disagree, but it's a respectable
Yeah.
take.
Yeah, that's fine. Misery's like mid-table for me, like 5-6. But
You know, I got so tired of hearing the same fucking song released as a single over and over again. I think something like Bleed Me Dry didn't stick with me at all. You know, I feel like it was outclassed by other things.
I think it is the weakest song on the album.
Yeah. But in saying that, it works better on the album.
That, you know what's funny? I actually think I liked it better as a single.
Really? Huh. The way that I'm feeling about this is that it's an enigma. Because I had a song like Somebody that I denounced wholeheartedly the entire time, you know, from release date onwards. It's the second best song on the album now. I don't know what clicked for me when I heard the album.
3 of those for me.
Bro. What are your 3 before I say anything
3
else?
songs I absolutely did not like as singles were Somebody, Left for Dead, and what's the third one? Your Turn.
I still don't like Your Turn.
Your Turn has issues. And it's the chorus.
Yes.
The sleep in your bed bit is the problem with it.
Yeah.
But the rest of the song slaps.
Yeah.
If you get past that part of the song, oh my god.
They should have saved Your Turn for the album instead of dropping it as a single, because I think I would have liked it a lot more.
They should have saved like half the songs they dropped as singles for this album.
I'm fine with 8 out of 11 as singles. I'm fine with that, to be honest. When
part,
Memphis May Fire releasing singles as good as all of these singles are, I'm fine with it.
True.
The part in the breakdown where it's like the second half of the breakdown. It's like where he screams two-faced. Oh my god! When I saw it live, I had to post it on Twitter.
I think, and here's my theory, because I still don't like Bleed Me Dry or Your Turn. I think in general they're the 2 weakest tracks on here, and I don't like them. But I can't bring myself to skip them. And it feels weird because when I talked about them as singles, I was like, shit, like they just sound like the others, but done worse. I don't care for them. But for some reason, you would think I would get tired of, for the most part, hearing the same song for like 11 tracks. Bar, like, obviously, like, The Fight Within is a lot different, and there are nuances to each of them. But, I mean, in general, it just, I don't expect such a similar sounding 11-track album to rope me in as much as it does. But it's all so catchy that put together as one package, I just don't care anymore. Like, even if they're just okay songs that I would skip in like a playlist, I don't want to skip them now because the whole album almost feels like one song, but in a good way. I guess would be the best way for me to put it. That like,
here's how I would put it. I think this album has the highest floor of any album I've heard this year.
Yeah,
it doesn't have the highest peaks, but I think it has the highest floor in which, like, you are getting consistently, like, just fun, enjoyable, quality, well-polished metalcore.
Yeah.
If you want
I mean, they have the same formula, but when you do the same formula so many times, you're gonna get good at it.
Yeah.
Dude.
And I think it also just benefits from not being broken, you know? Like, Broken, it was so bad that, like, this just makes this seem all the much better.
They did the complete opposite of Broken, too. They, like, released everything as a single, as opposed to Broken, where they released one thing as a single.
Well, and I think it's probably because the reception was so much better for these, right? Like, if I got 2 singles in for the last album and everybody was like, what the fuck happened? I wouldn't want to put out any more. And they were right, because every other song on that album was worse than the singles. But then you have this where all the songs are so good, and it's like, well, shit, may as well just keep dropping them. And it's doing them numbers. I mean, I want to go look at the thing on this. Everything besides the two, besides Misery and The Fight Within, are over 1 million. I mean, the closest to being not 1 million is 1.4 million. So, like, you know,
a single strategy clearly worked.
Yeah, it's got their numbers up.
100% did. Dude, everybody at the concert was singing every song, except maybe The Fight Within.
Yeah, and I mean, a testament to how well it works, right? Because, like, how many other times does somebody drop an album, tour on it a month later, and people know all the words to 8 out of 8 or 9 of 11 tracks? Yeah, I feel like it's almost hard to talk about a lot of the substance on this album because we've already discussed all the singles. Yeah. Right?
Can we take some time then to just discuss The Fight Within?
Yeah. One of the most uplifting songs of the year so far.
The most uplifting song of the year. Like, hands down for me, the most uplifting motivational song I've heard all year on an album.
Yeah.
It's just
on an album. Floya, man.
You know how I feel about Floya.
True.
Yeah, you and your fucking sad boy.
Yes. The Fight Within, though, there is hope. There is hope. The moment that song builds and Maddie just, like, belts out, there is hope, before all the instruments kick in for that final chorus in the higher key, it's just transcendent, bro.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
I cannot believe I'm saying this, but because of certain events in my life recently, I love the lyricism in this album.
Well, Misery especially, I feel like, is just...
well, the three, like I said, the ones that have grown on me are Your Turn, Misery, and what is it? Left 4 Dead. All three have insanely grown on me. Like, I hated Left 4 Dead before. I already said this, but one thing I will say though is this album feels like well, it is lyrically about a broken relationship, I'd assume. There is one song on this album that does not fit lyrically with the others, and I can't for the life of me figure out why. Can anyone guess what it is?
I want to say
The American Dream.
Yes.
Well, because it's weirdly political, except we all know what Maddie Mullins, like, is politically, so it's just, like, the most...
I don't, yeah. It's so weird, though. It's, like, all these songs about, like,
Death Inside
a
of Me.
relationship. Exactly. It's like, why? I honestly just remove it from the album. Like, I know the song slaps.
Yeah.
The song does slap.
Yeah.
But
It is a top 5 song on the album.
it just feels out of place.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like outside of a couple songs, even if the motifs are out there, the lyricism's a little weaker on some of them. But like you said, it's just a subject matter switch, and
Yes.
it says so little despite trying to say so much. Like, you could boil that song down to, can we all just get along, guys? And it's like, no. Shut up, Maddie. Like, I don't know. I hadn't really noticed it till you pointed it out, but you're definitely right. And I think I was too busy listening sonically to the album. If that makes sense, like, it fits in sonically, just lyrically. You're right. It's kind of out of place, and like, why? Maybe give me like a Remade in Misery Deluxe.
Song slaps, don't care.
Fair enough.
Like,
Fair enough.
I'm listening to this album and I get to that song and I am jamming the fuck out.
Yeah.
I guess it comes down to what your interpretation of the album is, right? And like what you're listening to it for.
This is not an album until I get to The Fight Within that I'm listening to for lyrics.
Yeah.
This is an album that I'm listening to have a good ass time.
That's how it was for me at the singles, which is why I didn't enjoy the Left 4 Dead. What else did I say? I always forget. Somebody? No, not somebody.
Your Turn.
Your Turn. Your Turn. I'm gonna say those two because, yeah, I didn't really connect with them because I thought they were just generic metalcore songs. But after like hearing them in context of the album and diving into the lyrics more, it's something I can connect with. And like, obviously it's not the best lyricism, but it is something uplifting, I guess, for me. Not uplifting, that's not the word. Something I can relate to.
Yeah. I think what's
I
up?
think we should talk about Misery title track.
Because I know you have the probably strongest connection out of us to it.
Yes.
Go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was sorry, I was giving you the floor.
Best chorus on the album. I would say no. I'm sorry. I was reading chat. Is it the best chorus on the album? I don't know. I think it is the best lyricism on the album. Maybe The Fight Within. I don't know. I'm not gonna debate it, but I think I'm just gonna read lyrics because they just mean so much to me. So let's go to. I don't even know what I want to read from. I like the whole song.
You know, I feel that. I relate to that on a personal level.
But basically, like, the whole idea of Remade in Misery, like, your pain creates who you are, and it shapes who you are going to be, and you're being remade through the pain, basically, that you're going through, and experiencing that shit right now, dude.
I've been experiencing that shit for years, so you know what? I feel it. I don't think I connected to that song. I feel like that I got the same message, that the same feelings that you're feeling about this album. You just got it from Misery, whereas I got it from The Fight Within.
I got it from The Fight Within as well.
With The Fight Within, where it's like, I might be lost until I reach the end, but I'll keep moving. Like, trying to push through all the hard times and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not the most inspirational or creative thing I've ever heard, but it's just motivational. It hits you in the heart.
I feel like Memphis May Fire has always been like that.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of their songs. Like, I noticed when going back to, like, what's a good one? Legacy.
Is that off Challenger?
I can't even remember, dude. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of their songs are very uplifting. And it seems like I don't remember the lyrical content on Broken, I'm sorry, because But
Yeah.
I noticed that this album is very similar lyrically to some of their older songs.
This album is giving a positive spin on dark times.
Yes.
Which is not something you see terribly often in the metal scene.
That is
100%
true. And I think that's one of the reasons I love this so much.
Almost ironic too that so many of the songs sound the same, and like it's some of the most generic metalcore you've maybe ever heard, but they're still doing something unique with it in terms of the lyricism and lyrical content, even if it's not super deep that you don't see a lot. No,
and it just sounds good.
And it sounds good. Ears. Yeah, that is. I think that's a testament too to the production quality of the guitars.
The production and mixing on this is some of the best I've heard all year.
I'll have to say the Memphis May Fire, despite not doing something super unique, are doing something kind of unique, and I'm surprised at how good this turned out.
I was never surprised.
True. This is very confident.
Going into this album, 9 singles ahead of the album, only 2 songs I hadn't heard yet. I'm like, this is gonna be a damn good album. You'd have to fumble the bag really fucking hard to ruin an album with just 2 songs, when all those other 9 singles are as good as they are, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, speaking of a band that's maybe a little more unique, I want to talk about the new album from Motionless in White called Scoring the End of the World.
The bodies hit the dance floor to this heartbreak beat. I feel like somebody's watching me. Feels like everybody's watching me.
I'm very curious to see what we all think about this.
I am as well, actually.
Justin, I want to hear your thoughts first on this new Motionless in White album.
Motionless go burr.
Yeah.
You mean
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, they go blah.
We appreciate your contributions, Justin.
Honestly, Justin, I'm going to feel the same way. I think I'm going to leave this discussion up to Jake and Jacob for the most part, because I really... Disguise is in my top 10 of 2019, and I think that was less a testament to Motionless in White, more to the fact that not a lot of good stuff came out in 2019, in my opinion.
Excuse me.
Well, at least for my personal taste, at the time.
How dare.
I still am not really a fan of what this band is doing. I don't like Chris Motionless's vocals, I think is what it comes down to, and the lyrical content. It's very much Ice Nine Killsy for me, where there is definitely a theme or motif, and I can't get into it. I still love Slaughterhouse. I think it's the best song in this album by far, and Werewolf is a close second. I love the Somebody's Watching Me callback and just the 80s vibe of it. It's really good. I'm going to be honest, the rest of this album was very, very forgettable for me, besides Red, White, and Boom, because it was so fucking bad. I think that may be the worst song I've heard all year, and it's not particularly close. That song is terrible.
Okay.
Red, White, Boom! Shut up.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Derek.
Okay.
Because I think there's moments on this album where it is amazing. And then there's other moments where it's absolute utter garbage.
I don't think there's a lot of garbage on this album. I just think there's a lot of forgettable on this album.
For me, they go hand in hand.
Red, White, and Boom is utter garbage.
That's garbage. That's garbage. And you know what?
That's a losing battle for me, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I think to me, and this feels bad because I feel like objectively this band has a lot of talent, and a lot of my gripes with it are subjective in terms of my own personal taste. But when you've got a band that's doing something where nobody sounds like Motionless in White, even if, there's in the same way it's like, oh, Bad Omen sounds like Bring Me, oh, Motionless in White sounds like Breaking Benjamin type of thing on a lot of songs, that for the most part this band is doing something really, really creative. And nobody else besides, maybe Ice Nine Kills, if you even want to count that, sounds like Motionless in White. I mean, yeah, they're loosely. loosely for me.
They've almost fully dropped the horror theme at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, there's songs like Werewolf, I guess, but
yeah, I don't feel
way more loose now.
I don't feel like anybody really sounds like Motionless in White, and for a band to have a distinct sound, like obviously you hear a Motionless in White song, you go, that is Motionless in White. For a band to have that distinction and to put out an album where so many songs feel so forgettable, that feels bad. Like, it feels wrong to have something that's a unique artist that nobody else sounds like, and then all their songs are just kind of like, meh. They're there.
2.5 million on Spotify, too.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Or maybe we're just not on the wavelength for whatever reason.
Yeah,
clearly it's working for a wide range of people.
I've determined this band just isn't for me, in the same way that I feel like Ice Nine Kills isn't. I get maybe 1 or 2 songs off of every album, and, you know, it's just not for me. I can appreciate it, but it's not for me. And I think this is an even stronger case of that than Ice Nine Kills, because at least with Ice Nine Kills, I feel like everything for me is listenable. Whereas with this, I found myself wanting to skip halfway through a lot of these songs just because I'm bored. Which is not how I want to feel about an album, you know?
I will say, though... Go ahead.
Okay. I think this album does one thing better than Disguise.
Which is?
Broadcasting from Beyond the Grave, Corpse Nation is so much better than Death Incorporated. I don't know when the last time you guys went back to Death Incorporated is, but if
know why. But
if I need to remind you, Death Incorporated chorus is "We are the weirdos in your stereo, disco freak show, Death Incorporated."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Shakespeare? Is that you?
And another lyric from Death Incorporated is, "You're not fucking with us, we're not fucking with you, so you can fuck yourself in your puppet suit."
Wow.
Why did
so good
for that song?
That's what I'm saying, bro. A redemption arc, maybe.
Corpse Nation is not my favorite song on this album, but it is not the worst song I heard in all of 2019. So therefore,
Red, White, and Boom is 2 songs later.
Yeah,
I said it's a losing battle. I don't think it's terrible.
It's okay.
I still have that song in my
right.
playlist. I have every song except for 2 in my playlist, and the 2 are Slaughterhouse and Cause of Death.
I wish we had face cams for this so you could see the face I made when you said it was in your playlist. I like visibly cringed. Like my brow furrowed, and I would just come in and I'm like,
Sometimes a little bit of cringe is okay.
What I've saved is Meltdown, Werewolf, Slaughterhouse, Cyberhex, and Scoring the End of the World. That's all I've saved.
I think this album gets off to a really good start. 4 tracks in, I'm thinking Motionless in White may be on their way to another top 10 contender. And then Slaughterhouse comes in, and I already knew I didn't really like Slaughterhouse. And then it's followed by Masterpiece, which I also didn't really care for. Like, it's fine. And then Cause of Death is just way too driven by the unclean vocals, and in Disguise, I was able to tolerate the unclean vocals and eventually grew to really enjoy them on songs like Thoughts and Prayers and Undead Ahead 2. Cause of Death is just... something isn't working for me there with the harsh vocals. Then you get another 2 solid songs. I think We Become the Night and Burned at Both Ends 2 are both solid. Burned at Both Ends 2 has a surprisingly good breakdown, but didn't really stick with me throughout the month. Broadcasting from Beyond the Grave, Corpse Nation. It's a step up from Death Incorporated, so brownie points, I guess. And then Cyberhex is my favorite song on here, but Red, White, and Boom and Scoring the End of the World are it's just such an underwhelming way to end the album, in my opinion, where you get like a really boring slump of 3 songs in the middle and 2 really just forgettable songs at the end. That it's unfortunate because I think there's a lot of good songs on here, but the bad somewhat outweighs the good here. It drags it down for me.
So I will say, I feel like I've done nothing but shit on Motionless in White all reviews, so I do want to say that I think that one thing that they do really well is a chorus. I think that they have an absolute, probably one of the best, maybe, I don't want to say pop sensibility, but they have a really good idea of how to craft a hook. I think especially my favorite thing that Motionless in White does is where they take a phrase and interject it without instruments, either before a final chorus or during a final chorus. Like the eye for an eye in the last chorus of Slaughterhouse, or even going back to Disguise, holding on to Smoke, where he like screams out, "I define who I become." I feel like that's, if I had to think about like what is the trademark Motionless in White thing, besides like maybe the Blay, you know, whatever, up for grabs with Architects, that to me is something that they've got down pat and something I really enjoy. I think most of the choruses on here are honestly really strong. I just don't think they're saved by the rest of the material on here, you know? That every song on here at some point or another, except for Red, White, and Boom, has a very distinctive strong point to it. I just don't think the rest of the song lives up to it, so I'm left feeling very indifferent and to an extent negative about the album. Just because not that I had expectations, because, you know, I'm not a Motionless in White fan, but I still was hoping for more from this. And for me, I didn't get it. But like Jake said, I just don't think I'm on the wave. I'm not on the Motionless in White wave, and this album didn't convince me to hop on it.
I got on it with Disguise. That was the first full Motionless in White album I heard, and I'm like clinging on by a finger right now.
You're holding on to Smoke?
Yeah, basically. It's a shame, because I thought this really had potential, especially with Cyberhex as the lead single.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I thought this had potential. Like, Disguise was an amazing lead single. Cyberhex was similarly shaping up to be a strong start to the album cycle, and it just, something's not working with me here. Maybe it's June syndrome of too much fucking music released, but this ain't doing it for me, unfortunately.
I gotta say, one of my favorite lines is in Meltdown. It's on tonight's series finale, we're all gonna fucking die.
Yeah, that was good. Meltdown is my second favorite track on here.
It is a really good opener, I will say.
Yeah.
I also think for a very brief moment in time, Meltdown had my favorite breakdown of the year, or in contention for it. Because, again, I feel like I've been saying it a lot this month, but generally a lot of breakdowns from this year have not been terribly impressive to me. But June delivered a lot of them. A lot of really good ones. Meltdown included.
What do you think of the closer?
It's there. It's okay.
It's very much there, and it's very much okay.
I wish Mick Gordon did more.
Yeah. I think my comparison to or for Mick Gordon features are that Monuments album from earlier this year. Another one of Andy Sizek's projects, where you can really hear the Mick Gordon influence on those songs, and then you get to this one and it's not nearly as prominent. I don't feel I
honestly couldn't tell first time I heard it.
Yeah, it didn't strike me, and to have a name like that on a closer, no less, and then to have it fall kind of flat leaves a very sour taste in my mouth for the end of the album, especially after the song that preceded it. I know it feels like we're beating a dead horse, but like with Red, White, and Boom, you know, obviously I've made it very clear it wasn't my favorite song by any stretch. And so I end the album with that, and then a Mick Gordon feature that fell flat, and I'm just kind of like, it doesn't make me want to go back and revisit this, you know? And truth be told, I haven't. I've listened to the album once through and a couple songs from it, and I've got my 2 songs, and I don't feel I need to go back. Which may be also June syndrome. But
I think there's definitely an element of June syndrome for everything in this month,
yeah,
to be honest.
No, for sure.
Even for some of my favorite songs, like I probably didn't listen to Misery enough when that Memphis May Fire album came out. Because I was just listening to The Fight Within on repeat.
Yeah. There are a lot of albums this month, including one that I'm very upset about that I kind of just put to the wayside because of the volume of stuff that dropped. We'll get there. But for now, I want to move to something that I know Justin's been waiting to talk about. And Jake, too, evidently by his Spotify numbers. We're going to be discussing the new album from Abyss Watching Me called Nyx.
How can you not understand? You're stuck in the
I just want to say before we get to the actual music, I think this is probably my contender for best album art.
Like of the year?
Like of the year so far. It plays a lot with my heartstrings and the atmospheric kind of blue and kind of spacey, lunar.
It's very Valiant Hearts-esque, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why Justin likes it.
It's because I'm pretty sure Tom did it.
Oh, really?
I think no, maybe, I don't know. I think because I know he did a lot of the Foya stuff, and this looks very similar to what a Valiant Hearts album art would look like.
So anyway,
but yeah, this album's good.
This is the best band that Justin has introduced me to in at least a year.
Hello.
Thank you, Justin. You did a good thing for once.
I'm still waiting for my Swedish band from Justin. It's that time of year, Justin. We need a new Swedish band.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I fucked you over with Noia.
And Imminence.
Was there a Swedish band last year, or no?
No.
I don't keep track with anything. Fuckers, this is a Czech Republic band. You think I keep up with what bands I suggest?
Justin, Jacob is simply asking for a quota of one Swedish band a year.
Exactly.
Not that hard.
Right.
It's not that hard. You gotta meet it.
Alright, I'll find one. Mark my words. But speaking of this band,
too.
what'd I do wrong last year?
You didn't give me one.
Fine.
Enough about Sweden, guys. Let's talk about the Czech Republic.
This album is really good. There is a lot to unpack with individually. A lot of the songs are really good. I'll kind of start off by one of my main gripes with the album is it's one of those albums that has been kind of lingering for a couple of years. A lot of the singles had to get remastered for this album. Specifically like Knives, Monochrome got a Tom Byrne feature. I think there was one more that got remastered. Or recent enough where they play a part. Losing. I think Losing also got a remaster. Which I should go ahead and say Losing is the best song of the album, in my opinion. And it's so good. Like, I love the chorus. The chorus is really good. Our time is up. Don't fool yourself. We've cut the ties and there's no healing. You've lost me. His voice inflection on "You've Lost Me" is really good.
His voice inflections across the entire album are incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely. Love Igor's vocals, and it's so good how he can go from this kind of like dreary, almost clean vocalist to just high energy, heavy vocals. Like it's night and day almost, and it just works really well. I've been a fan of Igor since Not Coming Home, I think was the song from Adventure in Valiant Hearts.
I want to say No Place Like Home.
No Place Like Home, thank you. The Johnny Craig feature. Igor was the heavier vocals on that, and I enjoyed that. And then I think he was only the heavier vocals in Marina, which was another band that Tom featured in. And their song Join was also really good. And this, with Igor as the frontliner, and he knocked it out of the park with some of these. Some that I'll kind of touch on for the most part. We raved about Spiral when that came out, and Spiral is still really good.
Best song on the album.
A really good opener. I won't say that because there's a lot of other good ones. Spiral is one of my top, and it's not left my repeat. We did not get a chance to talk about Whatever It Takes because I'm a moron.
Yes
for the most part. But Whatever It Takes is also really good. The seamless transition to just speaking in Czech and it working really well, and with the with the cleans with underlying uncleans, really good. Inner Beauty and See You in the Dark, I think, had like a seamless transition where I think they're just kind of songs that need to be played together. Not Coming Home had a really long startup, that I wasn't expecting. But I think for the ending, like toward the end of the album, I think it works really well as kind of like I kind of wish See You in the Dark was a bit heavier to kind of compensate with Not Coming Home, kind of loosening up the energy a little bit. But then it picks it right back up like throughout the song. So I still say my favorite song is Losing. Rope, I still kind of need more time with, and I know the album's been out for a while, but I feel like it's the same problem I've got with Wind Waker from Valiant Arts, where it's more of the uncleans than the cleans than I would like, and it's just something that I've got to get used to. But all in all, just phenomenal album for the most part.
Yeah, this is a really good album. I feel very similarly to this album with how I feel about Memphis May Fire, where it has a really high floor. In saying that, it has a really high floor, but some of the songs on this are still kind of forgettable to me. A lot of them sound too similar, and songs like Prisoner of Honor and See in the Dark and Not Coming Home, they all kind of just blend together for me, and just, I can't really tell you much about those songs, to be honest. But the songs that have gotten stuck in my head that I am able to distinguish are just so incredible across the board that I almost don't care how weak the other ones are, because I know, even though they aren't stuck in my head, I can guarantee that they are going to sound amazing whenever I listen to them. Just with the quality of the production and the vocals and instrumentation and the mixing, it's just all fantastic. And I think I also really, really enjoyed kind of the story that this album tells of trying to balance hope and hopelessness, is kind of how I interpreted it. With Spiral, where it's just going down the endless spiral or whatever. And there's a lot of references to trying to fight to survive throughout the album. And I'm sure losing and whatever it takes kind of are obligatory. It makes sense what those songs are kind of about. But in Rope, I really appreciated the chorus of "You're stuck in a hole, but let me throw you a rope," repeating cycle, but I refuse to let you go. And then also right before the chorus, the pre-chorus line that follows it up is, "And I'm sure as hell not giving up right now." There's a lot of themes, again, similar to Memphis May Fire, themes of darkness but hope at the end of the tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel. At the end of Inner Beauty, sometimes you need to run to finally turn around and find the inner beauty. And just fade out right after that. I really connected with that part. And then, Like Knives is the closer. References lyrics in Spiral. I don't know if that was intentional or not, because Spiral came out after Like Knives, but both songs have the same lyric of "all the regrets and the feelings, they're cutting you like knives." So that kind of ties the album back in from front to back, start to finish. And I think both Spiral and Like Knives are fantastic songs. Spiral, as I said, being my favorite song on here. Just the lyricism all connects. It's not super clear, but the more when you read the lyrics, you start to pull the pieces together, and it starts to tell a really cool story about living on the edge of hope and hopelessness, of you're just one step away from slipping down an endless spiral, but you're also one hand reach away from being brought towards the light by someone that wants to care for you. And I really appreciated the lyrical content of this album, and as I said, the instrumentation is fantastic. So just one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. Thank you, Justin.
Jake, did you also notice that Rope, being in the center of a 11-track album, has 5 songs early on?
I did not know that, but that's pretty awesome,
about the hopelessness, and then the last 5 are about overcoming that hopelessness, and I thought that was pretty genius.
I'm glad that you also
fucking cool. I love when bands do shit like that.
Right, it's so good. You were mentioning this, and it kind of made a light bulb kind of click off on my head. But yeah, I love the latter half of the album, just how it's designed. you've got the rope that you're pulling up, and you're like everything that you're seeing is like black and white, but you're seeing through that mediocrity, that monotony, to spot the goal at like an end of a tunnel, and the last few songs are coming home. You're trying everything you can to get to the end of the tunnel, even if you're being like cutting through cold, like almost like going through a war-torn battlefield. Like, it's just
And
I need
shoot,
more
now-
bands. I need more bands to do this, where there's a lot of interpretation with
The
how
thing
you
is,
design
it's
an
not
album.
Easy. It's
Right.
not
No.
easy to make an
Well,
album that is
and-
like the lyrical messages all tied together this well, this cohesively.
And now that you've said that too, I'm just thinking, because Whatever It Takes is like by far my favorite song on here, and I've listened to it a lot. And thinking about that lyricism, placing it right before Rope, and then having the hook to Whatever It Takes being just hold my hand, and like whatever it takes, like I'll get you through this type of thing, going into Rope. I hadn't caught that at all until you mentioned it, and that's fucking genius.
It's so good.
I think I need to revisit this. Because I listened to it twice. I saved my Whatever It Takes, See in the Dark, and Like Knives, and I liked everything else. I need to go back and listen to it with that in mind and see if my opinion gets even more favorable on this. Because this is really good as it is.
As
and
I
the
said,
rest
this has a
went over my
very
head.
high floor.
Yeah.
There are a few songs that I think are forgettable, but even the forgettable songs, like I know when I'm gonna go listen to them that I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
The last thing that I want to mention, I have not praised Monochrome enough. My second favorite song on the album, I think. It's between Rope and Monochrome, behind Spiral. But when Tom Byrne comes in at the end of the song, Tom Byrne is like an enigma for me. Because I don't like Valiant Hearts, I don't like him in Galleons, but whenever he features on something, he's just like incredible. And Monochrome is no exception. His feature is transcendent. It's like
the Caleb Shomo feature. Wait, we just
Except
talked
for...
yeah, never mind. I remember, yeah. No, we're not even gonna say it. Everybody just knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Monochrome is fantastic. It's another one of those rare examples of like a 5-minute song that builds just perfectly. When you're doing like a nearly 5-minute long song in an album in the vein of like A Mercy by Bad Omens, that pacing is so important or else it's going to get boring. But Monochrome is just, it's incredible.
I think I'm just a sucker for like certain voice inflections, because Tom in that feature does a lot of the particular inflections that I adore a lot from Adventure Odyssey. I don't know why I kept thinking Adventure. That's just the song, but not the album. But where it just seems like he's like almost his voice is meshing flawlessly with the instrumentals. I'm just a sucker for that, and any more post-hardcore bands that do that.
Yeah. No, Abyss Watching Me is doing a lot of things right.
Yeah.
A lot of things right.
And this band is 6,000 monthly listeners.
Criminally underrated.
Criminal.
Go check this out. Don't do yourself a disservice and miss it. It's one of the better post-hardcore albums I've heard all year.
Jacob, you've been quiet. Did you get a chance to listen to this or no?
Bits and pieces.
Are you more convinced? Has any of this convinced you any more to give it another chance?
I will return.
Hell yeah. Mission accomplished.
I need to hear how you both sound returning to this album now with discussion in mind.
We've got a little lull
If you
here.
try and pay attention to the lyricism in the album, I think it'll really paint a different picture.
Yeah.
If you really try and focus in on the lyricism. Even to just pull up the lyrics as you're listening to each song, if you need to.
I usually do that, or try to, when I'm listening to new stuff.
Because that made a big difference for me, because like I wasn't catching all the lyrics just listening to the music. But looking at the lyrics, when I like heard bits and pieces that I was like, wait, what's the deeper meaning going on here? There's a lot to interpret here. A lot of good. There's also a lot of good in this next album that we're going to be talking about. One of my most anticipated albums of the year, Future Palace have dropped their sophomore album, Run.
I'm so sad, Jake. I want you to know I'm sad. And it's because I love this album. And I'm not sad because I love this album. I'm sad because I love it and I've only heard it twice. And it pains me to even say
June
it.
syndrome.
It was the biggest example of June syndrome possible. And it made me so sad because I liked usually a lot of times the albums I'll go through and I'll listen to it and I'll go back and listen to it and I like the same songs. Or I'll like different songs and I'll space them out in my playlist. And there was just this chunk of Future Palace in my playlist. And I would listen like on my way to work and I'm like, well, I want some variation. And I did myself a disservice. Because let me state on the record that this album is fucking phenomenal. And there is so much to love here and so much good in terms of the lyricism, the instrumentation. Maria is a fucking goddess, bro. Her voice sounds so good on this album. It's unreal.
Level up in her vocals from Escape to this, even if, I'm going to say it now, I think this is a worse album than Escape, but I am way too invested in Escape at this point.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say
that's my problem.
That might be the biggest example of personal bias we get all night, bro.
That is a me problem, no one else's problem. Her vocal transformation from Escape to this is astounding. Going from the heaviest thing that we got on Escape was Break Free, where she like kind of half screams one line. And then there's a song on this album called Flames. And it's just like, that's the same person.
Well, if we're talking about Flames, I gotta say my favorite line because it's literally me. It's like, I'm 24 and I don't seem to know shit about myself.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 24 and I don't seem to know shit about myself.
I've been feeling that line since 2018.
Are you 24?
No, I'm 22. 22 as of like 2 weeks ago, actually. Happy birthday, mate.
It always fucks me up that I'm the youngest one here. It don't sit right with me. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, continue. I let the intrusive thoughts win for a second there. That's my bad.
Yeah, that line in Flames feels like 5 years from now it could be cringe, but like in this moment in time, it's connecting with all of us. It's like, it doesn't have to be 24. It could be like, it's just a metaphor for like, I'm young and I feel like I have no sense of direction in life, you know? Yeah. And I feel like that it makes so much sense to have Flames as the third track in the album. One of my favorite line on the entire album, my favorite song, Paradise. It opens with, in the chorus of, the end of the chorus is, until I reach my future paradise. So it's setting up that idea of, like, will I make it to this dream version of myself that I envision? Like, am I going to be able to become the person I want to be? And that's kind of the story that I think this album is saying. It's like, it's kind of similar to Memphis May Fire and Abyss, watching me again, of just like pushing through the struggle. This feels like another album that you actually see the light at the end of the tunnel and the world doesn't always suck. Because with Fever, the closer, it's like, I got a fever, I'm so excited, shining like a diamond. So like it does bring that hopeful ending. And my actual favorite line on the album, in Paradise, is the breakdown of, will I finally find my happiness, recover from all that is past? You just take a moment to think about those lines. That shit hit a little too deep, I'm gonna be real. I feel like Paradise sets up this album so well as an opening track. And I said that Fever gives it that ending, but I'm not satisfied. Because I think back to Escape and the tears that I've shed to Break Free and My Air, and Loco Loco and Fever are not doing that for me. They're great songs, don't get me wrong. But I feel like
connection.
I feel like, for me personally, this album is missing a 13th track, and it needs to reciprocate the piano that Paradise started with.
Dude, I've been waiting for... this is kind of a little tangent, but it's kind of in a similar vein. I've been waiting for Motionless in White to release Eternally Yours 2.0 at the end of one of their albums. And it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Similar vein.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's probably a me problem, because I think most people will enjoy Run more than Escape, but Break Free and My Air do such a good job at closing that album out, especially Break Free. And Loco Loco and Fever just aren't, that level of emotion isn't there. Lyrically, you hear the lyrics and read the lyrics, and it is uplifting lyrics. It's showing you that light at the end of the tunnel, but sonically, I'm not emotionally as invested.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there, because like I'm in that boat, right, where I like Run a lot more. But I remember I got to Loco Loco, and I remember because I think you and Wusky had listened to it at this point, and we were discussing Loco Loco and how it was different, and I'm like, okay, this Loco Loco to me is the ex mortis of this album, where it fits. Oh. It's a little different. I love Ex Mortis. It's my favorite song off that Ice Nine Kills album. Loco Loco, unfortunately, is not my favorite off of Run. And then I get to Fever, and I hear it as a closer, and I'm like, okay.
It's fine, right?
It's better than some of the other closers I've heard this year. I think the problem is that this album is too good for Fever to be the closer.
Yeah. That's a really great way to put it, actually.
Like everything leading up to it, I have saved or like really enjoy. And then I get to Loco Loco, and it's like my least favorite song. It's not bad. It's just there.
Yeah.
And then Fever caps it off, and I'm like, you're right. It needs a 13th track. It needs some...
I need a deluxe edition of this album more so than any other album I think I've ever heard, to be honest.
Well, that's like that Paris album that dropped in 2020. I remember whatever they added on to the end of it really felt like it completed Use Me more than the album did in itself. I need that. Like you said, we need that right now to give us the closer that we all deserve.
What comes to mind?
It's like how we got to the end of that Loveless album, and that Exile cover dropped, and the Exile cover was a better closer than the closer.
Yeah.
I need that. I need that equivalent here, because I'm okay with Fever being the closer. If this gets like some sort of deluxe album with a track that works even better as a closer, I think right now this is sitting comfortably in my top 10. I don't know if it'll make it by the end of the year. If we get something where the closer gets even better than Fever is, that's looking like a lock to me. This is a pun, but kind of not really. It kind of just reminded me. I think that Locked is the best song on this album, and it's not particularly close. That song is immaculate, I feel like, especially that chorus and the I'm so locked, I'm so locked. And I think it's interesting because I remember reading somewhere, I can't remember where, that Locked was actually Maria's least favorite album to record, or least favorite song on the album to record, because it was so difficult to record. And it's like, well, I just want to put it out there that, yeah, her dedication paid off, because I love that song.
Sounds like a Deception kind of deal with Mothership.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No, well, Deception is like a top 5 Dance Gavin Dance song ever for me. So, yeah, I think it's exactly sitting right there.
Didn't Tillian have like trouble recording that high note?
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember him saying
No. Yeah. God, I don't know.
It's so hard for me to pick. Like, Paradise is so far ahead of everything else. I think similar to how Locked is so far ahead of everything else for you, Paradise is so far ahead of everything else on this album for me that it's kind of hard to, like, what's my second favorite song on this album? I could pick, like, 6 songs off of this album and comfortably say, yeah, that's my second favorite.
Yeah, we got one.
I could give it to A World in Tears. I could give it to Dead Inside or Locked. I could make an argument for Defeating Gravity.
I'm gonna present an idea to you of how I view this album. I've got Loco Loco and Fever in B tier. I've got one song in S tier, and everything else is just so solidly A tier. Would you agree with that?
That's kind of where I'm at, just different songs.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I guess there's so much to enjoy here, and that this is the follow-up that I wanted. I liked Escape and I saw a lot of potential in it. This is exactly what I wanted from this band, and it is so refreshing to see so many bands this month. I think especially Future Palace, and then two other bands that we're going to be talking about later that really feel like they overcame the sophomore slump, where there's this like expectation that your second album is just going to be okay, whereas we've got bands, you know, really, really expanding on their sound, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed this album a lot more than maybe I was expecting to. The singles were solid. I didn't know if I'd love the rest of the material on here, but I do. It's so good.
Love to hear it. Yeah, I don't know if I have too much more to say. There's a missing 13th track, and it's definitely an evolution from Escape. This is like really taking the next step up, even if I'm not as emotionally attached to this album as I am with Escape.
See, that's kind of like the Plot in You album. Oh god, what's it called? Swan Song.
Yeah.
Where Dispose is so emotional. Like, I'm so emotionally ingrained in Dispose.
Yep, that's the perfect comparison.
But they have improved their sound and developed it to incorporate elements from past projects like Dispose and earlier stuff as well, and to create a new sound.
Escape is my Dispose. It all makes sense now. A light bulb has gone off in my head. I'm gonna sleep tight tonight knowing that now.
Oh, I see what you did there.
I don't got too much more to say. I feel like we should move on to these last couple of albums. We still got 2 more June 10th releases to talk about. Fuck June. Justin, do you want to take away this next one?
Yeah, fuck June. Let's go. Love to hear it. We've got FALSET with their whatever number album this is. Monarch.
Whatever number.
Good job, Justin.
I didn't prepare for that.
I think it's
second album. Second album.
Sophomore.
I thought you were supposed to like this.
I don't know. I like the band. I don't know numbers.
Sophomore album.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna give you the floor for a moment.
What? But. Okay. It's fine.
Derek?
I'm looking back at it, and there are some good songs here. Like, that is still one of my favorite songs on the album. Monarch is a good opener track to this album. Fancy Accident is such a good surprise when I didn't think that the band would do heavier vocals. And just throwing that out the window and having a really good heavier part in an otherwise kind of drowned out album, I felt really kind of, but it was a good top off to the album, but I feel like it should have been earlier. Everything else that I didn't mention, like Eyes of a Snake, I have saved, but I never really go back to it anymore. Love Me Like My Demons Who was the weakest single, and I'm still kind of about it. Everything else I really didn't go back to after like the first couple of listens.
This band is an enigma for me, because like their vocals are so good.
Talent.
Their vocals are
Vocal
so good,
is...
and the instrumentation is there.
Yeah,
but it's not pleasing my ears in the same way that other bands I would put in the same category, like Normandy, are.
Well, see, the problem for me with this album as opposed to the last album is I feel like the last album had a lot more direction. Like, you've got really similar songs on that last album. You've got Hollow Saints, Rock Bottom, Fire at Will, Kingdom, Give. A lot of those are very similar and very easy to get into. I feel like in this album you've got variety, but I don't think it adds well to a whole complete package like something like a full, I'll give an example here, Paul Bartolome album.
That's a good comparison, actually. This feels like a decent collection of singles to me. And I know that might be a bit disrespectful to, like, because there's clearly, like, you're writing an album and there's going to be some sort of a message behind it, but I'm just not really picking up on much of it. Like, everything that I'm hearing is fine for the most part. I think that this album has a higher floor than their debut album. I did not particularly care for their harsh vocals on the debut album very much, and that's why I disliked songs like Hollow Saints. So I'm honestly kind of happy to see them gone, for the most part. But it's just, something's not clicking for me. Medulla Oblongata is still the only song that's really stuck with me. And it's honestly just that chorus is way too catchy to get out of my ears.
With you, Jake. I think that's my
favorite dumb name.
It is a dumb name for a song, but it works.
No, it's an interesting name, and look, it's so weird.
I don't want to go out in the mall, be dancing the song and saying under my breath, Medulla Oblongata.
Bro, it's like one of that TikTok trend where they come up and they're like, "Yo, what are you listening to?" And you got to pull out your earphone and tell them with a straight face, "I'm listening to a Medulla Oblongata." Like, what?
Can you write that down for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Like one of the songs you can't play in the car with other people because it'll just be like, what the fuck does that mean?
Alright guys, when the four of us eventually do our Hivemind meetup, at some point randomly throughout the trip, I'm gonna do that. What song are you listening to? Hivemind edition.
Oh gosh. That's gonna be a lot varied, and I'm sorry mine is only gonna be like whatever I'm listening to.
Derek is either gonna be listening to like Ariana Grande or like some new sub 5,000 monthly listener deathcore band he just discovered.
Guys, stop! It's too accurate. You'll leave me and my Crown Magnetar alone, bro. Stop. That's so mean. What? You don't know about Crown Magnetar, bro? With such... I found them this year, deathcore band. They've got 17,000 monthly listeners with such phenomenally named songs as Alone in Death, Realistic Flesh Mask, and God is My Enemy.
Okay.
Stay tuned for our top 5 EPs of the year at the end of the year, guys. You might hear about them again.
Let's continue talking about this false.
Tangent aside, yeah.
Yeah.
I still feel like Falset have a ways to go. Their potential is so clearly there, but it's not. The dots aren't fully connecting yet.
I mentioned. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
Oh, I was just gonna say this. I think this is more them testing the waters of how they want to sound moving forward now that they don't have the Unclean's vocalist.
Yeah, I mentioned when we were talking about the Future Palace review that a lot of bands undergo the sophomore slump. The second album isn't quite as good, and it doesn't feel like they're there yet. And I think that is the case for Falset. That because this is their second album, right? We Follow or Lead the Way was their debut. Yes. Okay. I think I was waiting for that Falset song to fully click with me, and I got that with Monarch. So in a sense, like on a subjective level for me, I think they've leveled up in that sense. I don't know. It just I get to this album and their previous one, and it still feels like there's something missing. I mentioned when we reviewed the last one that all the elements were there, but it didn't feel like it had quite gotten there, and I'm still feeling that same way on this, that the instrumentation is good. The vocals are good. Everything's there. It's just something isn't meshing well enough together for me to want to go back and revisit a lot of these songs. And oh god, I wish I'd had the opportunity to go back and listen to this album again, because I only heard it the one time. But I remember there was one song on here, I think maybe towards the second half, where there was this just really sick breakdown. And it was on a song that I didn't... Which one?
Accident, yeah.
Yes, okay, yeah. And I remember thinking up to that point, so many of these songs could use that big instrumental moment like a breakdown. Maybe they just don't want to do it. And then they do it in Fancy Accident, and it makes me upset. Because
yeah,
I'm
it's like where is that on the rest of the album?
Oh, or, there are...
if you're going to save it for the end of the album, why not literally just save it for the closer? So, like, you go through an entire album of cleans, and your final moment is that breakdown of Fancy Accident, and you're just like, that's what you're leaving the experience on.
And I guess with that previous album, it felt like all the elements were there and they weren't coming together. For me now, it's that all of the individual elements are present on any given song. They just never come together in a way that gives me a song that I'm fully blown away by. Like, even Monarch, the song that I saved, I love that song. I'm going to keep listening to it, but I'm not blown away by it in the way that I feel like this band has the potential to do. You know, some of these songs I feel like are almost boring, but not in a bad way, just in the sense that it's... Yeah, I don't know how to say... Monotonous, maybe, would be a better way to put it. That what I'm hearing is good, it's just too much of the same good to the point where I get bored. You know, and that's not how I want to... It's not the same bored I felt as the Motionless in White album where I wanted to skip the song. It's just like, I'm wanting something more from this band that I don't feel like any individual song delivers on.
And that's why I said, like, this album feels like more of a collection of singles to me than, like, a true album experience, unfortunately.
I'm happy to keep checking out what FALSET are doing. Because, like I felt with their debut album, the potential's there. We're getting closer. I just wish that this release...
I don't know. It might be album 3. It might be album 7. But one of these years, FALSET is going to drop, like, a top 10 contender. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. Unless they break up. But, like, if this band keeps going, they're going to get there someday. They're going to figure it out. They have to. It would be... I don't know. Potential is just so clearly there.
I wish this album had been the one to do it. I was really hoping. But... hopefully not. I got my fingers crossed for album 3.
Patiently waiting.
Soon TM.
Cautiously optimistic.
We're throwing out all the buzzwords.
Yep. We got 2 albums left. Our final June 10th album to end off this crazy saga. Dragged Under have dropped their sophomore album, Upright Animals. And it has been a while since we last talked about this band on the podcast, because I believe we have not talked about them since they dropped the lead single, Brainwash Broadcast. And they dropped like 4 or maybe even 5 singles leading into this album. But every month, the singles were just like not one of my favorite things I had heard that month. Like, I thought All of Us was fine, but it was a little forgettable. I thought Crooked Halos was like the best single, but it still wasn't like my favorite song of the month. I thought Suffer was really good as a single as well, but it still just didn't match up to like some of my other favorite songs of the month. And that was continuously the story with Dragged Under. Listening to this album in full, this is a really good album, I think. It has its flaws. It's not perfect. It's not as good as their debut album, in my opinion. But given how I felt about all of the singles just consistently being underwhelming, not some of my favorite material I would hear each month, I really enjoyed listening to this album.
I will say, I think that this, and I only had the opportunity to listen to it once, outside of Upright Animals, which I think is far and away the best song on this album, I think it's my favorite Dragged Under song in general. I remember listening to The World Is In Your Way and feeling like this band sounded like a lot of other bands and hadn't really established that Dragged Under sound yet, and I think they've absolutely done that with this. I think that this is more kind of the same way that I felt about Stand Atlantic and With Confidence as they've progressed, that they've gone from kind of participating in the genre to finding their groove and almost molding it. I think that this album demonstrates that Dragged Under has the ability to be one of those bands, that they were so good out of the gate, and I think that a lot of the things that I'm hearing on this album they're almost kind of bear-toothy, but more punky rather than rock. And in saying that, I don't feel like there are a lot of other bands out there that sound like Drag Under. Like, they're starting to really set themselves apart more so than they did with that debut album.
The closest band I can compare them to is Silverstein.
Yes. I will say, having heard this, I think that this is better than that Silverstein album that dropped earlier this year.
I would say this is slightly weaker, but it's close.
And if we've got a band on their second album and we can confidently say that they are close to, or for me, better than, an album from a band like Silverstein that's been around as like a staple of the scene for like, what, over 2 decades at this point? Like, that is a real testament to everything that Dragged Under is doing, I feel like. Yeah, just so... I want to say bouncy and punchy, almost, is what this album feels like. It feels like it has something to say.
Yeah, there's punk energy all over this album. And I think there's a few specific songs that I really think that punk energy comes through in, and I think it's Never Enough and Weather. Weather, by far, being one of my favorites on this album, I think. It's Upright Animals, Long Live the King, and Weather are probably my 3 favorites. I think that chorus in Weather is stupidly catchy for some reason. It's kind of mellow, but it's like stuck in my head, just the repetitive weather. And then Long Live the King feels very reminiscent of that debut album, and that's probably why I attached to it as quickly as I did. Great riffs, powerful vocals, it's a very energetic song. And Upright Animals, as you mentioned, my favorite song on this album, the opener of the album. Something that I've literally said about basically every album this month. Between Memphis May Fire, Blood and Water is my favorite. Dragged Under, Upright Animals, opener is my favorite. Spiral by Abyss, Watching Me, Paradise by Future Palace. All the openers came to play this month, which is kind of funny. And actually, the opener on this next album too.
I was gonna say, like,
yeah.
I remember you saying.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. The openers came to play this month, and Dragged Under certainly delivering on that front. I think this album really just it falls apart in the ending. The final 3 tracks of Words for Hire, Brainwash Broadcast, and This Is the End just aren't doing much for me. Brainwash Broadcast was already a very underwhelming song back when it released as a single, and that has not changed for me. And This Is the End is just like, by the end of This Is the End, I'm 3 tracks into 3 underwhelming tracks, and I'm just like, can this be over already? I want to move on to something else, kind of. And that's not how you want to be feeling at the end of an album. Especially when there is a lot of songs I really like on this album. I think Dragged Under is the biggest victim of June syndrome for me. Releasing on the same day as Future Palace, Abyss, Watching Me, and Motionless in White. Did not do it any favors. To say the least. So.
No, I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's a second album. I agree with you that the ending's a little weaker than I would have hoped it would be, but I still think that in comparison to maybe some other bands that dropped album this month, namely Motionless in White and Future Palace, that fell off towards the end for me, I like the ending of this album still more than those. I think for me it does a better job of wrapping it up, but I agree that they're still kind of the weakest tracks on here. But I think overall this is a lot more consistent than that first album was, and I think there's big things coming for the third album. I'm more confident in something like this. Like, we were speculative with Falset, that maybe it's a third album that does it, maybe it's a fourth album that does it. Having heard this in comparison to their debut album, I am pretty confident that Dragged Under are going to really reel me in with this third album whenever it comes out.
I mean, this band is already doing numbers. Like, they were opening for Wage War last year. Like, this band is going places.
Well, and I remember distinctly...
They're definitely a name that you want to keep your eyes on.
They remind me a lot of Until I Wake, in that sense, that they came out of the gate sounding really good for not having had any material released. And, like, I remember distinctly when Dragged Under dropped that debut album, they were sitting at 100 and I think 10 or 20,000 monthly listeners. Fast forward 2 years to this next album cycle, they're almost at 400,000. That is a lot of growth between albums. Like, they're just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yep. Funnily enough, I actually discovered Dragged Under with their lead single. Their first ever single popped up in my release radar when that was the only song they had out, so I've been around since the start of Dragged Under, basically.
It's like me with Loveless.
Yep. Just a funny little tidbit I thought I'd throw in at the end there. I don't have too much more to add. It's an album that has its good songs, has its weaker songs, but worth a listen.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of albums with good songs that are worth a listen, except they don't have any weak songs, Destroy, Rebuild Until God Shows are back with their first album in 11 years called Destroy, Rebuild. Not to use the introduction for the album as a spoiler to how I feel about it, but this is the best album of June, and I don't think it's close.
You know what? I'm
gonna be honest. I liked Memphis May Fire a lot.
Yeah, I think Memphis May Fire takes it.
I also think Memphis May Fire is better than this, but both those albums are sitting in my top 10 albums of the year currently. So,
I was about to say, not to like, do a spoilery thing, but Memphis May Fire is in my top 5, and this is sitting comfortably above it. So,
I've done some mental math in my head, and I'm not going to say anything more.
Yeah, yep. We'll leave it there. I first found out about this band from my coworker back when I worked in a restaurant in my dish pit back when I was listening to Glass Hands. And he was I should have taken him to the Crown the Empire tour, because he's very much a 2010s scene kid. He met Skrillex, like
that tour was like nostalgia, because Crown the Empire playing the Fallout, The Word Alive is playing a lot of songs from Life Cycles, because it's the 10-year anniversary of that album as well. And then you have Drugs.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I guess he showed me their debut album from 2011 or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. It's all right. I enjoy it. And then we get this. What a comeback! If I had to wait another 11 years for this band to drop an album and have it be as much better than this as this is from that first album, I'd wait. This is, not to say that debut album wasn't good. It was amazing.
I saw them on the bill for Crown the Empire. So that's how I discovered this band, basically. I saw it on the bill for Crown the Empire, so I'll check them out. That album was so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Craig Owens is he's always been at the top of the game. I feel like, just on so many levels. And I think that really shows, because he's been around, I guess, in the scene, in various projects, working behind the scenes, whatever, for pretty much a duration of, since Drugs dropped their first album, I guess. And I think that experience has served him well to be able to come back and create a song for this, or an album for this project, that not only stands up and sounds, relevant to now, but also simultaneously is better than a lot of what's coming out now, and still somehow manages to sound nostalgic. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I want to give a shout out to the diversity on this album. That you've got something like Are We Not Drawn Onward to New Era, which is probably one of the more creative songs I've heard all year. There's a lot of variation in song structure, in the way that the instruments play out. Something like The Arm, which to me feels wildly creative and also works extremely well as a closer.
Yeah.
You need to have the one ballad per album, right? The one that starts off slow and builds and explodes. And I think that, honestly, The Longest Road is probably the best example of that I have heard.
They played it live.
Oh, I need to go find a video of that. Honestly, The Longest Road is sitting comfortably in my top 10 songs of the year right now. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of this album, quite frankly. But yeah, even that, there's Supercalifragilisticexistential crisis, which is probably my favorite song title of the year so far.
That's my favorite actually, maybe not my favorite non-single. I don't know. I really like The Arm. So
Yeah. All of them are up there for me.
Yeah.
Gold, and even the singles that didn't quite sell me when I went back and listened to them before the album dropped. It's not even like it's in the context of the album because they're like all kind of near each other, you know.
Yes,
but
they're all right next to each other.
Yeah, but they sound so good now. I don't know what changed. I don't think anything changed. I just went into the album. I was like, holy fuck! Like, Gold, Satellites in Motion, Brighter Side. Oh my goodness.
And it's interesting because the lyricism feels the same
Mm-hmm.
as the first album, but at the same time, it also feels much more mature.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's same topics, but much more mature. And because like in the first album, he's called like his ex a whore, and now it's like it's more serious,
mature. We can just leave it at mature.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like that was what was going on. I mean, think of Stand Up and Scream. You know,
I guess, yeah.
Back that era, 2009, 2011, everybody in metalcore was calling their girlfriends a whore.
Yeah, and every song was like 10 words long.
Yeah.
The song name.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just so much to love here. Craig Owens sounds so fucking good. Oh my goodness. Those high notes, the range that he demonstrates on this album is impeccable. Besides, again, not to like, I'm like throwing out my top 10 albums of the year right now, but I feel like I haven't hit it very much. Besides like Dreamwake, this is the album that I heard this year that I was most like floored by, because I didn't really know that they were coming out with new material. I thought Drugs was done. And so when you told me that they were coming back, and I didn't really have any idea what to expect, and I felt indifferent about the singles, and then we get to this album, and it's just banger after banger after banger. And I just kind of had to like lean back in my chair and experience it. Like, this is definitely one of those albums I feel like that you were just along for the ride to enjoy all of what this band has to offer. Just incredible.
I remember we talked about Brighter Side as a single in one of our other episodes. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this song's fine, but like I didn't really care too much about it. Like, it was fine. But then the album comes around and I'm like, okay, fine, I guess I'll listen to it. You've been hyping it up a lot. Like, Jacob, I know you were...
That was my favorite single.
You were
Mine
like,
too.
You were really like... You really seemed to be on the wave for this band as like something special. So I'm like, all right, let me see what's up. And it starts with Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And that opening riff comes in and the fast-paced first verse. And I'm like, oh shit. This is gonna be fun, huh? And then the chorus comes around. One of my favorite choruses of the entire year, period. When I wake up, put the past aside, no, we can't make up, I've got a different lie. The vocal delivery on that is so fucking good. It's incredible. And then it's just followed up by incredible song after incredible song. Albeit, Gold is one of the more underwhelming songs on this album for me.
Oh.
Sorry. But Satellites in Motion, that chorus is in my head. I think Brighter Side is incredible. Outcast vs. Everyone is one of the more underwhelming songs on here, but that chorus is still stuck in my head. Supercalifragilisticexistential Crisis is really fun. The Longest Road, fantastic build. The ending, I haven't spent as much time with just because Destiny is so good, in my opinion. But I want to make mention of Gravity, My Ever Ghost being a fantastic song.
Yes.
Especially that the call out before the breakdown, You Are My Ever Ghost, before the riff comes in. I really liked that. Next to, probably my second favorite breakdown on the album, next to Destiny. Abyss Watching Me was the biggest surprise of the month. This, like, any other month of the year, this would be my biggest surprise of the month, basically. But fuck June, you know?
It is. It's fuck June. But also, God bless June for giving us an album like this. Because, wow.
I love June, dude.
Yeah.
It's been a love-hate relationship with June the entire time, okay? I've never explicitly just hated June. Half of my top 10 albums of the year came out in June, okay?
Lyrically, this album is... It means a lot to me. That's what I'll say. Everything, like, you can feel the emotion and anger in Craig's voice. And I gotta say, hearing him live, or not seeing him live, I guess, his eyes are so fucking deep if you look into them. It's actually kind of
Yo! Hey, yo! Well, depth is certainly, like you said, reflected in this album. I mean, just all around incredible. Just incredible. Drugs are back in a big way.
Do we know
Now
if
that
they're
I've
here to
said
stay
that,
or?
I have no idea. I'd assume
I sure hope
I
so.
would think so.
I sure hope so.
So since we got the Crown the Empire, Johnny's Revenge, we got the Craig Owens feature on that, and they're touring.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's too much more. Well, no, there is one other thing we haven't mentioned yet. Justin.
Oh, true.
Yeah. Wait.
Justin.
Because I remember we thought Justin was gonna love this one.
Yeah.
No
way.
No.
Something's wrong.
Moving on.
Check the temperature.
Justin, blink twice if you're
Huh?
okay.
I'm okay.
Damn.
No,
No.
you didn't listen to this then. I don't believe it.
I listened to it.
Okay, so top 3 songs. Go.
Gold, Waiting on You, and Satellites in Motion.
Okay, so he at least listened to it. He likes it to some extent. We'll give him we'll give him a pass.
It's something about the vocals just not
needs
clicking with me.
improvement.
Wow. Wow.
Dude, I'm surprised. This feels like a quintessential Justin album to me.
It does.
Something with the vocals, man. I don't know.
Man.
I'm
Damn
feeling
shame,
pain.
really.
Well,
Anyway.
at least the rest of us loved it.
Yeah.
I'm so
At least
glad
it's sitting in
Vampire
3 out of 4 of our top 10 albums of the year for the moment.
Yeah. I don't see that changing.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, shut up.
Anything else to say on this album here, or are we done?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we've all, except, him.
Wow.
You shall not
You're
be
right.
named.
Justin, this is your fault.
Yeah. And
Yeah. And?
I don't have a
Man.
problem with it.
Man, oh man.
What a month June was.
It was a month.
Oh my god. We talked about June for like 5 hours
Yeah.
total, didn't we?
Not as bad as September of last year, though, to be fair.
Was it more? Holy
I think September was like 3 hours for each episode or something like that.
Wow.
Or no. September had to be like around 5 hours. We didn't spend 3 hours talking about singles in September last year. No shot that we'd spend 3 hours.
I feel like this singles episode was longer. Anyway.
This singles episode was longer. We also have to account for the fact that we spent 18 minutes doing stupid shit. But
That's true. It wasn't stupid. It
And
was...
I feel like that's just our MO at this point.
yeah, we start each episode with stupid shit. Yeah, we have to
So
we have to try and get
No,
it
no,
out.
I think it's just interspersed in the episode is like somewhere you can count 18 minutes of stupid shit.
Okay, I got the times here. We got 2:37 for part 1 and 2:42 for part 2 last September.
Okay, so yeah, this is shorter by like at least a few minutes. Then it's close though.
It is very close.
It is very close though. How does June 2022 compare to September 2021 though? Which is the better month?
No, you can. Okay. Oh God, what have you just asked?
I'm not even going to gratify that with an answer.
No, you got Sleep Token, Spiritbox, The Plot in You. What else do we have then?
Idola, Concrete Castles.
Landless.
Yeah, September was way better. Besides Drugs and Memphis May Fire, and I guess Future Palace, I didn't really... No, I shouldn't say that. I don't know, I like September a lot more. Last September.
But given how you feel about... I mean, Spiritbox released in both months. We have the
True.
Rotoscope EP this month and Eternal Blue in
True.
September
Wait,
2020.
that might be a sign. That's gonna be every time Spiritbox releases a EP or album, there's gonna be a 2-part episode.
Fuck.
We're 2 for 2 so far. That's a technically a pattern.
Suddenly, I don't want them to put out anything new anymore.
You know deep down that you want them to keep.
I am fiending for more Spiritbox, bro. Fiending.
Anything else we want to mention before the end of this episode? Are there any releases that we quickly want to just like say like that we didn't get to talk about in detail, but we want to make note of, or?
Not that I know of. There was one EP that I checked out that didn't quite catch my eye, but I think Derek specifically would enjoy. It was by a band called Veloria. They have a Varsity feature as one of the songs. I think Derek specifically would like it.
Is that what you dropped the music share?
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
I guess there's Earthists. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
I still haven't gotten around to it. Too much this month.
Yeah. June Syndrome.
There's too much July too.
Yeah, July's kind of
Well,
fucked
there's
too.
5 Fridays as well.
Yeah.
There's
We'll
also
make
so
one.
much that's
Didn't
just
we-
like slated for the rest of this year.
We Came as Romans as well in June.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that We Came as Roman song. Huh. Missed that one. There's one big release that we didn't talk about that I listened to. Well, I say it's a big release. It's just a 5-song EP from a small pop punk band called Years Later. They released their debut EP last year, followed it up this year. It's just solid pop punk, really. It's nothing too special, but if you want to go check that out, quick shout out real quick before we head on out of here. Derek, you got anything you want to show?
Besides that Bleed From Within album, which was incredible. If you like breakdowns and big riffs and guitar solos and pissed off like Scottish people, you should really go listen to the new Bleed From Within album. Incredible. Very much in the vein of Fit for an Autopsy, where I just kind of sat back with my mouth open for the whole thing and was like just blown away. Very,
There's
very
also
good.
Thornhill. That I can't believe we actually didn't talk about that, honestly. Oh well.
Still haven't gotten around to that. That came out this month.
That came out like the 3rd of June.
Jeez, feels like ages ago.
It is.
Well, yeah.
At this point, yeah. I think we're good to wrap this episode up then. If you want to follow us on social media, at Hivemind Radio _ on Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us get to 100 subs before the end of the year, because that'd be pretty sick and cool and awesome. And follow us on Spotify. Hivemind Radio Recap. That's all we got for June. But we still have half of the year to go. More monthly recaps coming. More after hours episodes are in the works, so definitely stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's going to be it from us this time. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a good day.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Good day, good night, good evening, good morning, whatever. Goodbye.
Homie, skip the fucking afternoon, bro. It's fuck the afternoon at the High Mind Recap.
Fuck the afternoon and fuck June. We'll see you next month.